having conversations about the good old days. And a lot of these guys I was such a fan of as a kid, and that includes the guy who's with us on the Emerald Queen Casino Sportsbook Hotline. Loved this guy, and a real pleasure to speak with him. The one, the only Boz. Brian Bosworth is with us. How are you, man?
I'm doing well, guys. Bob, number 9-2. How are you guys up there in the Northwest?
We're doing good, man. Thanks for coming on with us.
Oh, for you, always, anytime.
Well, Brian, I feel like I know you because I pepper Dave with questions about his playing days and his teammates, and he's had so many great stories about the two of you and the living houses, backyards butted up against each other and all this. But I got it. I don't know if Dave told you the story, but we were talking about your commercials and how much we love them and your acting, and then we got into some movie of yours that Dave had seen. And he was convinced of the storyline, and it sounded like this great storyline. It was you, and you had a twin brother that you didn't know you had. And then you ran into this twin brother, and when you ran into him, he was English. He was from Britain. And we're going, wow, that's a crazy storyline. And we're digging through your profile, your IMDb page, trying to figure out what movie it was. And Dave actually bought a movie thinking it was it. And it turns out that plot line doesn't exist in any of your movies.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some memory issues, but I pretty much remember the good, the bad, and the ugly of what I've been in and acting. I don't recall that one. I thought he was going for the Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito film.
Twins.
Well, Brian,
we kidded around a lot back in the day that Dave and I would have been a great comedy team because we were just slapsticking our way, through practices, back in the 80s.
Yeah, what's funny, Boz? I ran into Kelly Stauffer the other day, and he told, I go, yeah, can you believe I'm doing radio? I mean, this is like the last thing I thought I would be doing. He goes, no, I think, I used to listen to you and Bosworth all the time. You guys were really funny, and you made all these comments, and yeah, it was we had fun with it, right? I remember one time Tom Catlin, our coach, got mad at me because I was laughing, and whenever I would laugh, he would always look at Boz like, okay, what did you say to make him laugh? So,
well, Tomcat didn't have the best sense of humor by any stretch of the imagination. It was all business with him, and of course with our head coach, he Knox had zero sense of humor. I mean, he threw out some one-liners that some people would, snicker at because it was like, that's poetic, but, he was not a comedian. I mean, we needed levity.
Yeah.
There was so much pressure. And if you can't have levity amongst the, the pressure that, is NFL football, then it just really becomes, a chore. You don't have any fun with it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you were there because we were both fish out of water, and we're trying to figure out how we fit in. And you come from college and you're super confident in college, and you get to the pro, and and then all of a sudden you hit the reset button and you start all over again. You're questioning, do I belong here? Am I worthy? Can I do this thing? And God forbid, you just want to do the right thing. You want to study. You want to be healthy, and and hopefully have consistent performances when you go out there. But NFL it's hard, man. It's hard.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, your rookie year, though, Brian, you had a good rookie year. I sent you something the other day that was it was a little quote in the stat book or something. So Tariq Woolen, the kid that they have playing corner, just been an amazing player, but he was rookie of the week. And the last time that they'd had a rookie of the week winner, it was you, and it was against Chicago. And
I remember that game.
Yeah, you had a good game.
It was Walter Payton's last game.
Is that right? Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was his last game.
Yeah.
And I remember pulling that ball out of Neil Anderson. Is that his name? Neil Armstrong? Whatever his name was.
Yeah.
The tailback. They were doing like a duel, between him and Walter. And I remember pulling it out and laying on the ground. And I said, I got the ball. I got the ball. And Joe Nash is over there going, get your ass up and run, dude. It was all chaos. But you know what? That was that first year. I mean, if you remember, it was so chaotic because I came in super late.
Yeah.
And I think we had one preseason game left. We went to St. Louis, played the Cardinals. I think I'd been in camp maybe 1 or 2 days.
Right.
They told me, "Oh, you're not going to play." They threw me into the third quarter. I had no idea what I was doing. I remember one of our guys blew his Achilles heel tendon out in warm up because the field was so crappy. And he hit one of those seams. And then I don't remember the last preseason. I think it might have been San Francisco, whoever it was. And we played 2 games, and boom, you go on strike. So it's so discombobulated.
Yeah.
And then you come back, and we played kind of a shortened season. And I think we got into the playoffs as a wild card at, we were even, like an 8-8 team or whatever our record was.
Right.
But that was the only year that I played healthy.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was like I don't even know. I didn't even recognize myself when I watched myself on film. And the second year and the third year was non-existent. But that's the thing. They weren't kidding when the acronym for NFL, not for long, exists. I mean, that's for real.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, do you ever wonder what it would be like if social media and everything that exists today was happening back when you played? Because I was telling Dave, you had such a massive impact. You had such a huge persona. And I mean, despite the lack of social media and the lack of outlets and things like that, everybody knew you and you were genius in capitalizing on it. We were talking about the shirts you made with the, Boz and the circle with the red line through it. And you had all the haters buying it and putting money in your pocket, and which is brilliant. But do you ever think about, man, if social media and all these outlets, ESPN and everything that exists today were happening then?
When the downfall of human civilization is at social media, I would have, I don't know, I hate it, absolutely despise it. And let me let the record be known. I had nothing to do with those shirts being sold in Denver. I didn't find out about it until after the game was over. And some reporter brings up the shirt after we got our butt kicked. I mean, I don't know, it was 40 to something. That was the opening game of the second year. And they brought it to my attention, and they go, "Hey, this is your business, name or whatever." And I'm going, that seems odd. Call my agent. He goes, yeah. I just had this brilliant idea. I thought I would just capitalize on you going to Denver since you made that comment about John Elway. And, I just figured, we'd cash in a little bit, and I go, dude, you gotta let me know about this stuff before you go off on a tangent and start making stuff, and then I gotta put out the fires in the locker room because, back in those days, half of probably 70% of the guys, they did not like me. Only the guys on defense, nobody on offense. Mudbone, he did. But, we didn't talk much to the offensive guys, and we're rookies. We're just trying to figure it out. And that second year, we're just coming out of, our first year there and still trying to figure it out. But, back in those days, the seniority was the seniority. You got to earn the right to speak, to be in line, So, I mean, I'm sure it's slightly different now, but, you had to walk, a very, just very fragile line so that you didn't hurt the feelings of the veterans in there. That's what it felt like to me, with some of the guys, just like, man, I'm afraid to talk. Yeah. I just want to sit down and do what I'm supposed to do. And if you're 2 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late, that type of thing with Knox. It's like, you're getting fined here, you're getting fined there. Where's all this fine money going? Who's getting it?
Yeah.
It was just chaos. You're trying to figure out how the league and your job works when we first got there.
Yeah. Well, we had some fun. One of the things I was just, just telling Bob about was, so I was engaged and then we broke up and I called you. This is after our rookie year. And I called you and I was living at near Stanford and you were down in this beautiful like condo on the beach and everything. And so you said, why don't you just put your dog in the car and drive down here and come stay with us? So, and I was telling these guys the story about when we would go shopping and, like everybody, what I loved, Brian, was that everybody was looking at you and nobody was looking at me. And that was perfect for me. I had a great time with that. I remember another story. We dined and ditched Paul Moyer one time.
Yeah.
We had a nice expensive dinner, and then you and I left. Left him with the bill. But yeah, it was that was we had a good friendship, man. That was really nice of you to do that for me. And I just remember. Always when I look in my past, I just remember the good times mostly, and we had some good times, man.
We did. I mean, the crew that came in, again, because we're juggling all the new stuff and, the strike and then what does that mean? I remember sitting, I think we were 2 or maybe 1 or 2 weeks into the strike, and all of a sudden the players were coming in, what they call them, the scab players were coming in.
Right.
And then some other teams were letting, some of their regular guys, like skill position guys, like a wide receiver or a running back or a tight end on offense or a DB or safety or linebacker rush guy on the defense would come in and, and they would swing because those games, if you remember, those games were counting, and, I was competitive. I'd never really, experienced a whole lot of losses at Oklahoma. And, we wanted to be successful. So I stupidly stood up in one of those meetings and said, hey, man, I'll cross the picket line. And everybody's like screaming at me.
Yeah.
Big rookie, sit down. You got your money. You ain't going nowhere. Whatever. Next thing I know, I'm on an MTV boat with I don't know, whatever her name was, Bobby Brown, whatever her name was. It just seemed like such a discombobulated, time of our lives. But when we did finally come back together, there was Roland, it was you, we had Rufus, we had Tony Woods, all those guys that, we were just hungry because we were young and we wanted to fit in and we wanted to be accepted, not necessarily acknowledged, but, accepted. And more than anything, we wanted to make the city proud and we wanted to make the coaches proud. And we were just trying to figure out, how does this work? I don't get it. And it's a job, but you're supposed to have fun. And I never had a player sitting in the locker room chain smoking, and yet you got Greg Gaines sneaking in the back, and he's smoking faster than my grandfather. And I'm going, is this reality?
Yeah.
This can't be the way this thing is. But it's just the difference between college and pros is college, there's camaraderie that and everybody loves each other. You go out, you hang with each other. You get to the pros, practice is over, everybody goes home. Game is over, everybody's going home. The only time they want to get together is when the rookies have to be forced to pay for, a brunch. If you remember that moment, say, hey, you're paying, and everybody on the team shows up and they order everything on the menu. They eat nothing, and then they leave. And you're going, wait, it's a $4,000 bill, and nobody's eating anything. Pack it all up. It's all coming home with me.
So, Brian, in talking to Dave, he's got a lot of stories about his playing days, and you can just tell how much he loved it and reflects on it with a lot of joy. Do you feel the same way now that you look back? Obviously, not everything is perfect, and you talked about, just wanting to be a guy that fit in and be accepted. But when you look at it now, years removed, do you look on your career fondly, like, hey, that was a good time, I had fun, or is it not as much for you?
No, it's haunting for me. It's haunting for me because I didn't do what I wanted to do. I wasn't patient. I didn't know how to handle it. I felt like I went into that second year knowing. I mean, I knew in the off season of that first year something was wrong, and yet I just listened to them. Even though I had a doctor down in LA going, you kind of need surgery. I think you need to do some surgery and just kind of figure that out and get that thing well. And the guys up there go, no, come on up. We'll figure it out. And that was at mini camp. And, you know, I'd never been injured before, not to that degree. And, you know, suddenly they shoot you in the shoulder and the pain goes away and you go, oh, this is awesome. Yeah, I'm totally good. I don't need surgery. Not knowing what the repercussions of constantly shooting yourself and playing that whole second year with basically a numb shoulder. I felt like I was playing at 50% capacity, letting not only myself down, but letting the teammates down. You know, I had a high bar that I wanted to live up to, as did, you know, the fans, you know, the fact I came in, the way I came in, and, you know, all the hype and all the other stuff, and I get it. But to me, I just wanted to make, you know, myself proud, my father proud, you know, my teammates proud, the city proud, and I failed on all those measures, and it still haunts me today. You know, there's nothing that we can do about the things that we're passionate about. And if we're born to do something and you put so much time and energy and effort, you know, blood, sweat, and tears, and it's just all important for you, and you come up short, you're always going to feel like, I'm not going to say a failure because you got there, but less than your accomplishments, and you didn't meet the bar that you set for yourself. So, yeah, I mean, I envy those guys. I envy Dave because Dave had a great career there. He went on and played, you know, many years at Seattle. He went on to Denver and played many years in Denver. He had a long, sustained, you know, career. And, you know, I know it's really hard to do that. Statistics, you know, tell you that you're not going to be in the league for long. I think it's 3.2 years is your average career expectancy, and that's exactly how long I played, 3.2 years. If I was smart and I'd listened to my body, you know, I would have just said, you know what, guys, you know, I know, you know, the first year we, you know, had some success, not all the success we wanted to have, but we did have some success. We got to the playoffs, but we almost beat Houston. But I ain't right, and I need to get right. You know, if I'm going to be here for 10 years, I want to be a producer for 10 years. And I just wasn't a patient kid. I just felt the pressure of I guess, being a gambler. And sometimes if you're a gambler, you don't win.
Hey, Brian, tell us about one of the things that I really enjoy are the Dr. Pepper commercials, man. I mean, I know it's just a commercial, but still, I think it brings out, because you're a funny guy, and you know I think that was I think both of us were smart asses, and that's why Top Cat didn't enjoy that part of us. But yeah, tell us how that came about, and you know where how you film it, you know the whole thing. How has that come into play with you in your life?
Well, I mean, first of all, I was a class clown when I was a kid. I mean, I was constantly, you know, in elementary school.
Yeah.
And they don't do this anymore. They should, because that's what's wrong with our young people. I was sent to the principal's office multiple times a day because I was cutting up in class. So I got licks all the time. I even broke the principal's paddle, and I figured, all right, well, those things are over, and come back the next day, go to the principal's office, you got a brand new paddle with holes in it. Hurt a lot more. But I just learned that, you know, there's I don't know why I felt like I had to be the center of attention and constantly entertaining people. Mm-hmm. You know, and I learned how to curb that because that's not always good to do that in serious situations. But levity was a stress reliever for me. And I don't think when the Dr. Pepper commercial came on, they had any idea that, you know, oh, well, I guess he can play, the strong man. And and they don't have any, funny lines when they script the stuff and they send it to me. And it's not like, TV show or a movie where there's an actual script. It's with a Dr. Pepper commercial, it's more like suggestions. And the director he's very footloose and fancy free. So I memorize the lines, but I know going in, it's like, all right, he's gonna say, all right, say the line. Okay, say this. All right, say that. So it's just a chaotic, event because he is, he's got this genius, thought process of putting the commercials together. And I suddenly realized that there's little moments in there, and it's not really with words so much. It's just more with expression or facial, type, tics or, just reactions, and he gives us that leeway where, sometimes he'd come to me and say, hey, no, I need you to play a little stronger here, or, I need you to, not be so animated or whatever. So, I take it back a little bit, and then, when he's not looking, if the camera's not focused on me, I'll throw in a little bit of something. But the commercials themselves, I love it because Dr. Pepper has such a unique connection with college football. Mm-hmm. And college football has changed so dramatically over the last 4 to 5 years, especially these last 2 or 3 years with the NIL that comes in. Dr. Pepper's not afraid, and this campaign that they put together, they're not afraid to tackle these controversial issues. And I applaud them for that because I think the audience is smart enough and they want to be challenged a little bit about where college football is today and accept it as opposed to feeling like, it's the players and the teams that kind of rule the roost, and it's never going to change. And in most circumstances, it really doesn't. It's always the SEC kind of dominates, and every now and then the ACC with Clemson comes in, Ohio State goes in. And that's kind of the way it's been. If you look at the BCS championship and, the way that the playoffs have been set in the last 6 or 7 years, it's kind of the same 4 to 6 teams that are playing each and every year. But it's the constant chaos that's behind the scenes that's kind of taboo for most advertisers. And Dr. Pepper's not afraid to just kind of shine the light inside the dark closet and say, hey, this is kind of what's coming up, and we're just going to have fun with it. Because even though it might drive you crazy that, suddenly these kids are now running the show, whereas it was back in the 80s and the 90s, the coaches ran the show. I mean, there would be no way at all that a kid could come in and dictate what he was going to do, how he was going to do it, what he was going to say, whether he was going to play, all of the stuff that's happening now. Most of the coaches that's not just pass, get somebody. I'd rather have 80 players that are coachable than have 50 players that are coachable and 25 guys that I got to babysit. I got to ask, can you please show up today? Can you please go into the weight room? Can you please, it's just changed a little bit.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that Dr. Pepper is not afraid to tackle the weird issues. But what I really like about it is they kind of go into this world where it feels like a throwback to all the classics that we grew up with, those, whether it be, the Gilligan's Island or Green Acres or, Leave It to Beaver or whatever. You got these little weird, family units that on the surface, those are your fans. But when you really get to know them, they're just like all the other people, in our society. They're just weird.
But on college game day, we're all about the same thing.
Yeah, gotcha.
But away from college, it's weird people, and it's okay to be weird.
Hey, Boz, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And again, I feel like I know you because Dave has told me so many fun stories about your guys' time together, and love the Dr. Pepper campaign. I think it's fantastic, and hopefully we get a chance to talk to you again down the road. Thanks so much for the time.
Anytime, guys. Anytime.
Thanks, Brian.